Now, this video is just about what happens at the very end. So, this is where Babylon invades. King Nebuchadnezzar comes down against Jerusalem and Judah and invades, and the inhabitants of the land go into captivity for 70 years in Babylon, just like the prophecy says would happen, and just like it said in the law that would happen. So it was particularly 70 years because God wanted the land to make up for what it had missed in the Sabbaths of the land that they hadn't fulfilled, that he told them to do. So that was another part of it. But okay, now here, so the fall of Jerusalem, and this is also it's in 2 Kings 24 and 25, and here 2 Chronicles 36, 15 to 21. So here we go. And the Lord God of their fathers sent warnings to them by his messengers, rising up early and sending them, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Therefore he brought against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion on young man or virgin, on the aged or the weak. He gave them all into his hand, and all the articles from the house of God, great and small, the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king and of his leaders. All these he took to Babylon. Then they burned the house of God, broke down the wall of Jerusalem, burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious possessions. And those who escaped from the sword he carried away to Babylon, where they became servants to him and his sons until the rule of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. As long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Okay? All right, so this is that part. So they get taken captive. That's what happens. Now, right after the 70 years are over, we get this, the decree to return and rebuild. And God works all this out through these kings of these other nations. So it's kind of interesting. But that's what happens. And then this is what happens. So, okay, that's the next part. And I'll just read that. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord God of heaven has given me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up. So, anyway, God worked through all these different kings, and you'll see more of them coming up, where they actually proclaim this to be done. All right, so there's the decree to do this, and anyway, that's the end of 2 Chronicles, and the next one, where it continues, right here, is in Ezra. It's the end of the Babylonian captivity. So, in Ezra 1, we see in 1 through 8, see this King Cyrus again. Let me move it. Well, I'll read this part now. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and also put it in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth the Lord God of heaven has given me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, besides the freewill offerings for the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. Okay, so he gives this decree, and then it just goes on like, they go up and they do this. So then the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all whose spirits God had moved, rose to go up and build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And all those who were around them encouraged them with articles of silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered. King Cyrus also brought out the articles of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem and put in the temple of his gods. And Cyrus, king of Persia, brought them out by the hand of Mithredath, the treasurer, and counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. This is the number of them, and then it goes on with all that. But he gives this stuff back, and they take it up to, where they're going to rebuild the temple up there, and gives the order to do all these things. Anyway, so that's what happens. That he gives this decree, orders this to be done. That's what happens. And I will read some of this, but I just wanted to mention a few things. Okay, so we have in Ezra 6 and 7 also deal with the decree to return and rebuild. Nehemiah chapter 2 also, and that's the next book. So they go together. They're just from a different standpoint, so I'll be combining them. Now, in Ezra 2, 7, and 8, we see the return of the captives who returned to Jerusalem. So it just lists the, list of names, what families and tribes, all that. So, but the point is they do go back. Then in Ezra chapter 3, we have, eventually they rebuild the temple, and then worship is restored at Jerusalem. This might have been a temporary thing, but they do it all. Rebuilding of the temple, Ezra 3. So worship is restored in Ezra 3, verses 1 through 7. Then the rebuilding of the temple is verses 8 through 13. So that's where it begins, the rebuilding of the temple, and then eventually it's in the temple where the worship is restored. But so this is what happens. So that captives go back, they rebuild the temple, they rebuild the city, they rebuild the wall, they repair things, and everything resumes as before. That's what happened. And next, so that's really it for this video. The next video will be longer, and I will be talking about things that happen in here. They're quite interesting. So I will be right back for that.